All right, I'm going to call this meeting to order. We will start with roll call to establish quorum. Nicole?
Here.
John?
Here.
Christina?
Here.
Meredith?
Here.
Jen?
Here.
Yana?
Here.
All right, we have established a quorum. Has the meeting been properly noticed, Christina?
Yes, it has.
Thank you very much. And before we move to adopting the agenda and jump into our meeting this evening, I did want to take a moment to announce that this will be my last board meeting. Earlier today, I sent a letter to our staff and community to notify them that I'll be stepping down effective tomorrow in order to fulfill the duties of a new job. Governor Tony Evers has appointed me to serve as his state federal director and director of the Wisconsin Office of State Federal Relations in Washington, D.C. So through this role, I will have a great responsibility of serving as a liaison and advocate for the state of Wisconsin before our federal government in DC. Since I will be moving to DC to fulfill this role, I have submitted my notice of resignation for September 21. And it truly has been the honor of a lifetime to serve this community, our incredible staff, and most importantly, the students of the Verona School District. This year marks my 20th year involved in the district, if you count me starting as a kindergartner at Stoner Prairie. And it certainly has been a pleasure to serve with each one of you, both the board members and those who are in this room and have spent time with hundreds of hours. Even the new members of the administrative team, I'm sure we've already spent hundreds of hours together. So it has been a pleasure. I know that there is a lot of work ahead for this district, and I could not be more confident in this group of leaders, and especially am pleased with the leadership of Dr. Clarity. Know that with Dr. Clarity at the helm, we'll have a leader who is unrelenting and unwavering in his commitment to bettering the service to our students. So I'm just incredibly grateful for the opportunity to serve. It is a work that is done here, and particularly from the inspiration of our young people, our students, that provides me with eternal hope and optimism for our future. And so since it is my last meeting, I have the honor of reading our VASD equity statement and our mission. We believe that each student has access, must have access to the resources and educational rigor that they need at the right moment in their education, regardless of race, gender, ethnicity, ability, language, family background, or family income. And our mission is that each student will acquire the knowledge and skills necessary to achieve their personal goals, thrive in a diverse global society, and lead a healthy, self-fulfilling life. So I appreciate you all allowing me to go on that tangent there before we jump into our agenda. But it certainly has been the honor of a lifetime to work with you. So thank you. Thank you all very much.
Well, there will be another tangent, sorry. I just want to say how grateful I am that you've put so much time and effort into serving the VASD community. I don't know that people will ever understand how much time that you have put into this, that you have brought your vision to the board when you were first elected, and that you have worked diligently every step of the way with such integrity to bring that to fruition. We learned how to be board members together. We started at the same time. And from a personal perspective, I have just so appreciated the integrity that you have brought to this position, the clear vision that you've brought. You've been a fantastic leadership partner. I knew this day was coming, and I'm thrilled for you because there's only good things ahead and you deserve every bit of it. And I'm not even going to wish you luck because you don't need it. You have the skills and the aptitude to tackle anything that comes ahead. And I'm just so thrilled that I've been able to work with you over these years. And personally, I'm sad that you're leaving, but I'm excited for you more than anything.
Thank you. I sincerely appreciate that. And I know that you will be a fantastic president for this board and lead it into the future. And as you said, we joined this board together, and I think I've spent more hours with you out of any other person on these matters. Your wisdom has certainly allowed me to grow far beyond what I would have expected with this experience, and know that you'll do a fantastic job as leader of this board. So thank you, Meredith. All right. Thank you all. We can move on to the adoption of the agenda. Is there a motion to adopt the agenda?
So moved.
There's been a motion from Meredith. Is there a second?
Second.
Uh-oh. I think we have a
Work up
second
that.
from John. Any questions or comments before we vote? Hearing none. All those in favor, please signify by aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, we have adopted the agenda, and now we'll move on to item 3 on our agenda, matters reserved for board action. Today, the board is engaging in the second reading and considering approval of a slate of policies that will define and guide the operation of the Board of Education, the relationship between the superintendent and the board, the operational expectations set forth by the board and entrusted to administration to carry out, and most importantly, the results we expect for our students. I certainly believe that these policies will help bring the district to a whole new level in its day-to-day business, particularly the board as it focuses on where all of our attention should be, our students, and ensuring that our students are afforded the best possible education we can deliver them. And as Dr. Clarity says, a world-class education defined by its excellence grounded in equity. So I'm pleased to offer my full support for these policies and will ask for any thoughts, comments, and motions from the board.
I just want to reiterate what was said last week, that this again is the true work of the board. Our work lies in policy, and we are doing the true work of the board when we are ensuring that our policies align with our mission. And then we are holding our administrators accountable for achieving the results that we expect. We are working within the true scope of board work. And I'm very pleased that we have adopted or are going to adopt these policies, that we put so much time working as a board to collaboratively reach this end result. And I think it's one that will very much be beneficial for our students in the district.
Any other thoughts, questions, motions?
I would also like to reiterate from our thoughts last week about, this kind of being a continuation of the development of governance in our district and how welcome and it is, at least from my point of view, to have a system as a board member to help us understand where our lane is, what we should be doing to ensure that we're focused on student results and not being distracted with operational decision-making. We are very fortunate to have hired a very talented administrative team here, along with Dr. Clarity, and along with their work and these policies, being able to focus on student results and not matters of day-to-day things in the district, I think will be a benefit for our students into the future. And I'm really, really excited about the way that this helps us communicate better with our community and hold our district accountable and hold ourselves accountable to that community in a transparent way. So yes, this is very exciting.
Thank you very much.
I'll also kind of reiterate my statements last week, just really letting the community know that although you see a very well polished set of policies now, it was a long, hard road for us to get there. We really truly have a board of people who are really focused on students and what can we do to create the experience and education that each of our students need. And so we disagreed. We went back and forth quite a bit. Every word, every punctuation, every colon and semicolon all is purposely placed within these policies. And so, just really reiterating that we all have different perspectives, but we were able to meet on the grounds of creating the best education for each and every student within this district. So you see it polished now, but just know that we did the hard work of getting it to where it is right now.
Absolutely. Thank you for those comments. Other thoughts, comments, questions from the board?
Hey, Noah, I'll make a statement since I was not present at the last board meeting. I unfortunately wasn't able to attend when you first reviewed these policies, as I was dropping a child off at college. And I was thinking that night, our commitment to really focus on student achievement is so important. And when I've now had 2 children who've been all the way through VASD and one who's still here in middle school. I think making that commitment to every family, every parent or guardian, that student achievement, the progress of our students is of utmost importance, is just really fundamental. And when you get to the end of the road and it's time to transition, for your child to transition, I think that just gives me a sense of fulfillment that that's the right place to be. So I think going this direction with these policies is the right move. Because someday all of these students progress and they'll be making a transition out into the world. And we want to have said that we did our very best to make sure that they grew and progressed through our school system.
Thank you very much, Christina. Other comments, thoughts, questions, motions? Is there a motion to adopt?
I would love to make the motion
Absolutely.
I move that we adopt the policies that we spent countless hours working on as a team, as a reflection of our commitment and work to the district.
Thank you very much. We have a motion from Jen. Is there a second?
Can we add an amendment to that as well to move our current existing policies into operational policies for Dr. Clarity to use?
Absolutely.
Thank
Would you
you.
want to
Yeah,
clarify
thank you,
your
Meredith.
motion?
Yes, so I should restate my
Yes, that'd be
motion.
great.
I
Thank
move
you.
that we approve the policies as we drafted a number of weeks ago as a team, in addition to rolling over the previous policies into operational for Dr. Clarity.
I'll second.
There's been a motion from Jen and a second from Meredith. Any last questions or comments before we proceed with voting? All right, hearing none. All those in favor, please signify by aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? And this motion is unanimously adopted. And I think, as I mentioned at the last meeting as well, sorry to leave you when the work just gets started, but truly, it's going to be exciting, I think, to put this into action and really start to hone in our work on student results. And I know we have a fantastic partner in that, in Dr. Clarity and his administrative team. So thank you all for your work on these policies. It has been a significant lift, and I think will be for the betterment of our students. All right, we have an item B under matters reserved for board action. What we're going to do is proceed with items 4 through 7, and then we will return to item B, which is the PMA levy and aid anticipation notes. So Dr. Clarity, I'll turn it over to you for the superintendent's report.
All right. Good evening, everybody. Thank you for the opportunity and thank you for joining us here today for those audience members. Before I jump into the superintendent's report, I just want to take a personal moment to thank you, Noah, for leading the charge and providing me the opportunity at my first superintendency. I know it was a significant choice on behalf of this community and a significant responsibility. And I am committed not only to this community, but also committed to not letting you down and letting the board down in their dedication to me and their commitment to me as a new leader of the district. I also just want to let you, when I first met you, I said, I think I better get to know this guy really fast and learn a lot because he's not going to be around very long. And that really came to fruition quicker than anticipated. But when you have talent, you take advantage and learn and grow. And you've allowed me to do that. And also you do your best to position talent to go on to do greatness for the community and beyond. And I know you'll do that. So thank you for the opportunity, and thank you for continuing to serve all Wisconsinites and especially our children.
Thank you so much. And, I've said this before, but I think one of the moments I have appreciated the most in processes that I have participated in was the selection of you as our superintendent. And in the few months I've had the chance to work with you, it is absolutely evident that you'll be an incredible leader for this district. And I just hope that you stay around for at least a decade. So I'll make frequent visits to make sure that happens.
Thank you so much. So I'm also aware that we are probably in between some Packer fans and being able to watch a game. So I'm going to talk
Great idea.
expeditiously, but also understand that this is a crucial day for us, in many facets. We have the opportunity to run a meeting and agenda and begin the processes under governance policies that are explicitly designed to support student results. And they are explicitly designed to hold the superintendent accountable for those student results. And I couldn't be more honored to be able to start that from this moment moving forward. So as part of the superintendent's report, as you see on the agenda, I first want to acknowledge another icon in our community and give a congratulations to Coach Dave Richardson, the head football coach of our Wildcats, who accomplished his 200th win on Friday night. So congratulations. On that same night, on Friday and then on Saturday, we had a celebration at Verona Area High School in the form of community open house. The community open house was nothing more than phenomenal. And it wasn't just because of the magnificent facilities that our community has invested in to allow for a world-class facility. It was because we got to meet and understand how important education is to the Verona area families and the expectations for excellence that they have and the desire for each generation to be stronger and stronger. That came through loud and clear in every conversation that we had that night. It was clear in their presence in the building, in the pure joy that was expressed in knowing that any opportunity that a child desires exists within Verona Area High School. And it is our mission and obligation to make sure that we meet the expectations of that facility and that we meet the expectation of world-class education inside that facility. But I also wanted to say thank you to everyone who attended the open house. I actually want to give a special recognition to a hardworking committee that prepared. That committee was formed by Principal Pam Heyman, Rita Mortensen, Rachel Belli, Corey Scaffold, and Chad Weezy. And if I missed anyone, I definitely apologize. Many people had a hand in it one way or another, but I know that group was really on the ground and making sure that we didn't have any flaws. And every report that we've gotten back is that it went off flawlessly. So thank you so much to everyone who contributed. And if you missed the opportunity for whatever reason, commitment, we still know that our facilities are open and welcome, and we'll figure out a way to get you a tour. But have your walking shoes on, because it's a good 7,000-8,000 steps if you're wearing your Fitbit. It's a good workout. As we do at every board meeting, I want to provide an update on our COVID numbers. What you'll see before you are the 7-day trends from our last meeting, from last Monday to this Monday. In that week's time, we've had 18 confirmed positive cases in a 7-day span. And just in all transparency, we want to lift 2 areas where we had a little bit higher numbers. That was Glacier Edge with 6 and Verona Area High School with 7. We continue to just double and triple check our mitigation strategies and making sure that we're doing proper contact tracing. Some adjustments that we've even made between last Monday and this Monday to enhance the transparency to our community is that we've shifted our update to our COVID dashboard to a daily basis. And so we are running a chart that will update daily, and our community will know day by day what our numbers are and how we are addressing those. Additionally, we've added 2 additional contact tracers. We know contact tracing is a crucial and vital component of mitigation strategies. It also is extremely time consuming. And we are so appreciative of our hardworking nursing staff and other staff members that have just really dug in to try to keep our students safe, and we continue to support that work. And we also wanted to provide some additional resources in the form of 2 more contact tracers to support that work. We will continue to make adjustments as we go. We appreciate the feedback from our community around needs and desires, and we'll try to accommodate as much as possible. I've really tried to make sure that I don't overcommit and make a statement on something that we can't perform or something we can't do. But when we can logistically make adjustments in the form of transparency and communication, which we know is one of our most important traits, we will make every effort to do that. So quickly, I'm just going to pause on either the open house or COVID updates to see if there's any quick questions from the board.
Dr. Clarity, I just want to thank you and your team for the updates to our website. It's user friendly. I mean, when new things are happening on the board, they come up as alerts. Like, that's very, very helpful for people as we are trying to keep a transparent communication between our families. And so thank you so much for that. And the addition of the COVID dashboard. I know we mentioned that last week, but just being able for families to know that they can go on there and see that daily and see what's really going on in the schools is really important. So thank you for that.
Thank you. And again, I want to make sure we lift up our staff, the staff that are doing this every day, late nights into the weekend. We want to make sure that we give them our thoughts and support along the way as well. So thank you for the recognition, but also want to give the honor to people that are really working to make sure this is taken care of.
I'll specify that gratitude a little bit and just thank you and your entire team and staff for just the level of responsiveness to community questions and family questions that have come in, not only regarding the COVID dashboard, but just in general. I just appreciate that as a parent myself, and just knowing connections I have to families in the community that have really felt the level of commitment you have to being responsive and timely in communication. So thank you for that. And just an extra lift to the staff that helped at the open house as well. We attended all the staff members that stayed and spent the extra hours to meet and greet everyone, the student volunteers. It was really fun.
Absolutely. So any other questions before we move? Okay. So in getting practice with our new agenda, and I know it's a new format, so I have to continue to remind myself, I've been doing something for a certain way, or either witnessing or practicing for a number of times. So I'm going to do a hard stop on the superintendent's report and move us into the very policies that you have just approved for us to govern under. I'm going to begin with a very quick overview of kind of glossary terms. It's more for our community, as I know each of you work deeply into understanding what each of the governance policies meant, but I want to make sure our community understood as well. And so on our next slide, I want to open when we talk about board governance policies, here are the 2 primary goals. The 2 primary goals are that the board now is a way of working that are specifically focused on student outcomes, both academically and social emotional. All right, that is a very clear lane, and that is how we will talk about how we will have conversations during our board meetings moving forward. Additionally, and something that I hold a lot of pride in, is that these governance policies explicitly hold the superintendent accountable for not just the policies, but also the student outcomes. And then I know that I will be, and my team will be challenged and with high expectations around student achievement in academic and social emotional form. We will be expected to present very clear metrics on how students are performing, and not just to you, but to our community. And that will culminate in reports, and not monthly reports to the board in the form of policy review. So in essence, did this team achieve the policy, or did we not? And so that is something that, again, we own that. We understand that as a challenge, but that is now our prioritize, and it helps us frame our work into a very clear lane. So quickly, I just want to go over the board governance policy and structure. So anything that works, that's a governance policy that's under GC or governance culture, those are values by which the board will self-govern. And so those are commitments that our board has taken, that we will lead this community in this way through this governance structure. You'll see that you'll see our board reflect on that at the conclusion of every board meeting, where they will self-assess how they adhere to those policies. So when you hear about the reflection at the end of the day, at the end of a board meeting, that is what they're doing. The second set of policies are BSR, which stands for Board Superintendent Relationships. And those are really related to really defining and delegating the authority and means for establishing my accountability to the organization. An example of a board superintendent relationship would be policy number 1 under BSR, which is BSR 1. That is that the superintendent is the sole contact for organizational questions. In essence, the board will filter questions from the community through me, and then I, when necessary, will delegate that to my team for responsiveness. But I will be able to understand and know what the community wants and desires are, because the board will inform me of those questions and ask. Then we'll move into operational expectations, which we refer to as OE policies. And these are really like the values and the standards for our organizational performance. Some of these include our actions and the conditions of the board. So there's the achievement piece of it, but how is the organization functioning? Am I being responsive to families? Are our communication systems up and running? Are we supporting teachers and supporting students, and those things that a board clearly expects and should expect the superintendent to do? And those will fall under our operational expectation policies. And finally, and I feel a little bad for putting them last, they just kind of the way it worked out there. But our results policies are kind of the heart of our work. And that is the outcomes they achieved for and by our students. You know, what I most am excited for is, like, someone's going to ask me how our kids are doing in literacy. And we're going to be able to have a conversation about that. Someone's going to ask me how we're doing in math, and please break that down demographically. And we will have conversations about that. And that is the excitement. When you talk about how can you get excited about policy? Well, that's why we're excited about policy, is because we'll be able to have those conversations. Yeah. I will also just lift that right now, we just approved the policies, and we don't have the structure yet, and I'll put it clear yet, that everything will come to fruition on October 4th, our next meeting. That's not realistic, but what we are committed to are reasonable progress to ensuring that we have the infrastructure and space to be able to not only provide reports on how students are doing, but very clearly talk about our mechanisms and strategies that allow for student results to permeate throughout our organization. So we're going to, you can go to the next slide, Chet. We're going to quickly look at our first one, which is a results-focused policy, which is R2 in our new policy. And for our audience, our policies were available in the board docs, and we will make them, now that they're approved, we will place them immediately on our website for transparency purposes. So R2, which, while this may seem like a very short sentence, probably took 4 hours to do. and just being very, very clear about that. And that is because we wanted a policy that encompassed what we expect a student to achieve academically here in the Verona Area School District. And while it simply reads, each student will be literate and numerate and able to achieve their personalized goals, like, what does that actually mean without, without a structure and an environment? And so what I wanted to do is very quickly kind of give you an overview of how we will address that very policy in itself. What we'll see is that what will be reported to our board is that the first thing we have to do is really develop a solid infrastructure, an organizational structure that supports data-based measurement of students. In essence, we have to build a culture of data and a culture of data literacy, so we understand how students are doing based off data and data results. In all transparency, that doesn't exist yet. And so the task of this team will be to build that structure itself and then be able to talk about some of the results that go along with that. We also know, along with the social emotional wellness piece, that we have to strengthen our PBIS systems, our MTSS systems, and those ways of working that support social emotional growth and development as well. Those structures we still need to enhance and make sure that they are appropriately in place. So while we will get to this space where we can purely talk about the data, the first set of results that you're going to get is actually how do we build a structure that will provide the sources or the resources for us to look at data together as a board and a superintendent and a community.
Dr. Clarity, really quick, you mentioned 2 acronyms. Can you?
Yeah, I shouldn't have done that.
When you did it, I was like, he's probably thinking he needs to explain those, but can you just let everybody know?
Correct.
What
So PBIS is positive behavior intervention support, and MTSS is multi-tier system support.
Thank you.
Yeah, good question.
Dr. Clarity, maybe just to ensure that this is making sense from a bigger picture standpoint, because I'm thinking right now as a parent and former staff member, the statements that we don't really have the data to drive this yet, the difference between what you're stating there versus report cards versus giving map tests, if there's just something you could add to that, just so parents are not sitting, well, we have numbers about students. What is the difference?
Absolutely. So we do have numbers. What we don't have is universal systems where we can coherently look at data across our schools in a like or common manner. We do know we have for instance, a STAR assessment where we can use that as an assessment, but we want to make sure that all of our schools are delivering at the same time, that we are looking at the data together and we're looking at the data in support of our staff and students, so that it's not an assessment for the sake of taking a test. They're actually assessments so we understand where students currently stand, if we need to excel, and how do we accelerate learning together based off those data trends. So
Thank you. I think that is helpful.
Thank you.
Dr. Clarity, can I add one thing? So from the board perspective, our job is we're all in agreement with these policies, that these are the priorities of our district. And we are putting the execution of this policy into the hands of our educational professionals, that this is the work that the board has done the work of setting the policy. And now our job is to let the educational professionals do the work of executing. Our job then is also to ensure that the work is being done and that we are achieving the results that are set out.
Correct.
This is the priority work that has to be front and center of everything that we do. And we fully support that because, we have 5,000, almost 800 students, or a little over at this point.
Correct.
Every single student matters, and the results of every single student matters to the board. And that is a huge task. And that's where we want to be offering our support to you and your team to ensure that this policy is the #1 driver of your time and your resources.
Thank you. Thank you for articulating that. And it is. And what I will desire in working in partnership with the board is that if things are getting in the way of this work, that I am able to lift that up, acknowledge it, and let you know why we are focusing on these policies. And just have that very transparent conversation that you have an expectation of myself and this team to drive home academic achievement.
Absolutely.
And sometimes there are things that intentionally or not get in the way of that work. And I would just sometimes have to make very tough decisions. We're reprioritizing because this is our focus and this is why we're focusing on this.
Absolutely. This is the non-negotiable. The results for our students is non-negotiable. And so thank you. We look forward to seeing the work that goes into that. And we're excited that this is the direction for us.
Absolutely. Thank you.
I also wanted to quickly add to that. I appreciate the patience of pausing and making sure that the data that we're collecting is actually useful and standardized. I work for a healthcare data company. And as a person who does that, I know if you're not careful and you don't clean your data and you don't standardize it, you can get data to tell you and lead you to extrapolations that are not correct. So while I know it's tempting to come in and create a bunch of reports and make sure that we're showing some direction, that work is being done, but we're doing it in a mindful way. So thank you for taking the slow approach, and just a reminder to the community that although it might take a little bit of time to get there, it's actual meaningful results. So I appreciate that.
Absolutely. Thank you. So I'm going to move us along. If we can go to our focus on operations. And then probably to save a little time, since while we're in operations, we'll go ahead and have Chad and Pete coming up because you'll be a part of this as well. So as we think about our focus on operations, we're going to see that come to life today in two forms, and they are going to be directly aligned to our newly approved policies. First will be operations OE2. And the second one will be our financial update OE6. So for the OE2, that is an emergency superintendent succession and succession plan. So this is a policy that it is my hope and desire we never enact. But I also know that it's important to have a succession plan in the event I'm not able to fulfill my duties as a superintendent. So what I have submitted to you on the next slide is a documentation. It's either on the slide or I gave you a hard copy as well. Is documentation of an example of our processes to putting our succession plan into policy that I have signed off, that I have acknowledged the succession plan in the form of titles for the layer superintendent and working down. We are moving away from the practice of putting them in the form of names. This will be the title of the position that works in order of succession, and we have gone 4 deep with those titles. Again, highly desire that we don't go too deep or 4 deep, but also want to make sure that we have qualified and trained staff both in the governance model and in leadership license that are able to lead our district in the event that I'm not able to do so. So questions about OE2, which will be our first policy that we have lifted up for an example or artifact of completion. Well, let me back that up. As a draft of completion, we are not at the completion state yet. It's only a draft. Hearing none. Okay. Our second policy that under OE will be OE6, and that'll be a financial update to talk about the financial health of our district and to get approval going back to board action, which was item number 3 on our agenda. So with that, I'm happy to present both Chad and Pete from our business offices and to take the lead on our presentation to the board.
Doesn't seem like that's rolling
Oh,
through.
yeah, no.
There it goes.
All right, there we go. All right, thank you, Dr. Clarity. It's good to be here this evening. We do have an update, essentially just a quick check-in with the board before we get to a busy month of October. As you kind of heard from Pete and I as we rolled through the summer and passed the preliminary budget, that the preliminary budget is really just a best guess in terms of where things will end up by the time we actually get to the middle and the end of October. We're here tonight to give you an update on the work that's happened between the last time we saw you and definitely the work that will be happening when we see you again at 2 different check-ins in October. So tonight we're going to quickly go through the 2021 year end, which is a report we have to hand into DPI in terms of where we believe we will end up in terms of the end of the year, the last fiscal year, and people have an update on where we're at with our audit. We do have a board vote tonight on cash flow and short-term borrowing. So we will walk you through the logistics related to that and the reason related to that. A quick update on where we're at with Third Friday count. We'll have an update, an idea around budget assumptions that will be on the way. Pete put together a great kind of 3-sheeter that I encourage the community and certainly the board to take a look at. We kind of, Yana and I kind of asked for like revenue limits 101, and Pete kind of gave us 102. So there's a little more detail in there than you might want, but certainly a super useful document. And then a look ahead to the 18th and the 25th of October. I don't know if the clicker's working anymore.
Yeah, it's working.
There it is. That's right.
Okay, well, good evening, everyone. I'm here to give you the update on the 2021 year end, how that's ended or how we think it's shaping up so far, and a quick audit update. Well, as Chad said, we did have to submit some documentation to DPI, and we did a lot of that last week. It started with actually submitting something called a trial balance to our auditor. And what the trial balance is, for anyone who, it's been a while since you had accounting 100, it's just a listing of all the debits and credits that happen all throughout the year and how they're going to affect the ending fund balance. That's basically how an audit starts. So our auditor requested that. And then at the same time, I was also uploading all of our information to DPI. I had 2 reports I had to submit to DPI, and our auditor had 2 reports to submit to DPI, all of our trial balance. And what DPI does is it takes all 4 of those reports and meshes them together and makes sure everything balances the way it's supposed to. And we passed that. That was just passed last week. So the auditors already did a cursory review on some of our data, but now they're going to start the more detailed work where they're going to start, pulling some invoices. And they're just going to look for some backup on certain items. So that audit's going to be happening here pretty soon. In fact, they're going to schedule something for the week of September 27th or the first week of October. I'm not sure if they're coming in person yet or not, or if we're doing everything online, but then they're going to end up reviewing our books in a little bit more detail. And chances are there may be a few more entries that are going to have to be made. That typically happens in the course of an audit, there, especially if it's for our first time working in a school district or working in this school district here. There may be something that we might not have caught, but I think we caught it all, and the auditors looked, like I said, they're pretty confident in where we thought it was going to be. But like as I said, there could be some subsequent entries. But the way it's standing right now, as you can see in that one bullet point, we are estimating that our revenues will exceed our expenditures by about $1 million this year. So basically what that means is we would have $1 million more into the fund balance. The final year end data is going to be submitted later. As I said, we're going to be starting the more detailed audit. So to follow up with Chad said sometime in October at one of the later meetings, either on the 18th or the 25th, we'll be able to give you a more updated number. And then the final audit, I'm not exactly sure when they're going to have it done. It is scheduled to be done all within, or it's projected to be done within the required due dates. But I would imagine sometime in November, we should have a really solid number, but we'll definitely give you an update in one of those October meetings. Thank you.
Thank you for that, Pete. And I see at this point we are due per the audit in November, in line with the policies passed this evening. That will certainly be the timeline that we will hit. I wanted to thank Pete and our team for the work it took to wrap up last fiscal year. To put it in perspective, we closed out a referendum. We held up a school district during a global pandemic. We had now we're going to be on 9 or 10 board members, a couple superintendents, and a brand new finance team. And they did an amazing job. So they are quick studies. They're lots of days are small treasure hunts to get the information we need. And it's been outstanding. So Pete's been kind of burning the midnight oil along with his team to get that work done, and wanted to make sure I thanked him and the finance team. Very related, we did want to have a discussion tonight around short-term borrowing. So Pete mentioned that we will end up with, we're guessing with about $1 or $1 million of a deposit in our fund balance. And that's actually a very healthy place for a school district to be, between 1% and 2% on an annual basis of having revenues exceed expenditures. We, as a district, we would never want to be in a spot where we're deficit spending and having to tell our school board that, yep, we overshot the budget again this year, time to take a withdrawal out of fund balance and then report that back to the state. So we're in a very good spot as far as that goes. The reason I mentioned that this is so connected is that tonight we actually have to work with you as a board and get you to approve permission for us to actually borrow a little bit of extra money. And the idea there is that on an annual basis, there can be times that our fund balance, when you actually do kind of a checking account audit on a monthly basis, approaches 16, 17, $18 million. There's also a time during the year that we'll explain tonight that we dip as low as being $9 million in the hole, because there are times that we give deposits or revenues happening and that those expenditures keep coming, mainly in the form of payroll. And if we get those big splashes of money at 3 or 4 times during the year and not on a steady basis, we actually have to borrow money to essentially pay all of our bills. And that's what we wanted to make sure that the school board understood tonight. So this is just a quick chart on kind of that yellow line is where we end up on average on an annual basis as far as that checking account. And that is the money we have available to write checks, to pay the bills, to pay payroll. And you can see there are certain times throughout the year that we are running up, the checking accounts in a very nice spot. But there's also a time in January and February where we do dip down and have a need to borrow some cash on a short-term basis. I wanted to make sure the board understood exactly what they were voting for tonight. Also wanted to mention, as we wrote into policy this evening, that it's our expectation that we have a minimum, that we would never dip into an area where we compromise the school district with a fund balance that's too low. But the cap is now off, and we can have future discussions on where the board is comfortable with in terms of what that cap looks like. There are many school districts throughout the state that don't have to short-term borrow because they build up a fund balance throughout the year. And in our case, it would mean about another $10 million that we have enough cash to carry us throughout the year and never have a time that you actually go negative need to borrow. But that's for further discussion down the road, very connected to long range and capital planning. But we're in a great spot, and this is just kind of a common way of doing business for lots of school districts. Questions at all about, and then I'll quickly go through this, at all about the vote tonight related to short-term borrowing or fund balance or anything Pete brought up?
I have a quick question. Did this borrowing happen in previous years for our school district? Okay.
Yeah, it has, I think.
Yes, it has. It's been going on for several years that I know of. And in fact, today I just had to transfer a lot of money to pay back all of the short-term borrowing from last year. So we ended up getting our tax revenue in about a month ago. And so I used that money to pay off our short-term loan. So yes, we've been doing it for a while.
And my guess would be Noah and Meredith, certainly as some of our longer tenured board members, probably as long as you guys have been on the board, this happened on an annual basis. And the board has done an amazing job building up that fund balance on an annual basis over the last decade. There were probably times that we needed to borrow more than the $9 million that we're asking for tonight.
Absolutely. This has been a standard vote. This is always our October vote. So, and I think it just kind of syncs up the idiosyncratic school budget cycle at the state level with the actualities of a school district spending cycle. So here we are.
Yes.
Thank you.
This is where Amy, I think, usually reminds us that nearly every district has to engage in this type of movement of funds. So,
Yep, thank you for that. When we will, I think Noah will prompt us in a little bit regarding a board vote that we're okay with. Other questions?
I'll just say that I encourage everybody to read the short document that Pete did put together. I kind of threw it at him at the last minute. Just, there are terms that are foreign to people who do not do this work every single day. And so it's a short 3-page document. It has pictures, so it's pictures and graphs. So it's not 3 pages of just text. But I do encourage people to read it. If you have questions, please reach out and ask those questions. But we do want to be able to have these conversations in terms that people understand. And so Pete, thank you so much for pulling that together as fast as you did. I think I asked for it on Wednesday and he got it to me like Thursday night. Like it was quick. So thank you for that. And I really do encourage people to read it if you haven't already so that you understand this language. I don't think we get enough questions about the budget and how we spend money. And this tells you how we spend the money and why we spend it the way that we do. So I really encourage you to look into those things.
Just want to quickly, so just in Yana's statement, so thank you for looking that up. Yana, our treasurer did follow GR1 though, because she did ask me first and then it went to Chad and Pete. And so she did adhere to GR1 policy for our reflection, even though she said that she asked them, but it was due to proper lines.
Thanks for that, Dr. Clarity. And we could have even in the debrief potentially had someone surface that as well. So yes, that was certainly the case.
Good.
All right. A quick update on enrollment.
Hold on, Chad. We're gonna do the vote.
I think we can proceed with the vote now and then proceed with the rest of your presentation if that works. for
Yeah,
you.
we have just got a little bit to wrap up. I think it's great.
Okay. Are there any motions from the board regarding the resolution authorizing the temporary borrowing?
So moved?
Motion to approve?
Yes.
There's been a motion to approve from Meredith,
Second.
a second from Yana. Any last questions or comments before we vote? Hearing none, all those in favor, please signify by aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? This motion is unanimously passed. Thank you very much, and we can proceed with your presentation. Thank you.
All right, thank you for that. We will be able to pay the bills now in November and December and will not be bouncing teachers' paychecks, correct? That's a good thing. A quick update on our enrollment. So as the board knows, and this happens statewide, the third Friday of September to start your school year, we are required with a fairly complicated means to essentially count our number of students. And Dr. Durchie and Brad and Pete have been working closely with many of our power school secretaries at our sites to do just that. The enrollment office has been key and has been leading that work. I had a meeting again this morning. We were hoping in terms of tonight to have an initial idea of where we were ending up as far as enrollment went, and it's just a little too early to tell. I think if we had this meeting next week, Monday, we'd be in a much different position, but it's complicated work. In a nutshell, we can count everyone who attended school on Friday and we took accurate attendance. If they weren't there, then we have to verify that they were there prior and show up a day after third Friday count. We have the added layer of virtual students to make sure we're checking all the boxes there. They do count for us. There has been a calculation already done for summer school. We've got open enrollee in, open enrollee out, and some complicating factors that are certainly doable, but related to 4K. And it turns into kind of a big complicated spreadsheet to end up counting all of our students. It's important for the board to know as we roll into October that we estimated in the ballpark of about 30 additional students compared to the previous year when we put forth our preliminary budget. And if we end up over that 30, and that's why we bring it up tonight, because we won't hit it on the head in terms of where we ended up, likely won't hit it on the head in terms of where we ended up in the preliminary budget. If you end up over that 30, essentially the state gives you additional taxing capacity or revenue limit related to those students. Every student counts for essentially another $12,000 in spending authority from the state of Wisconsin. And then you either get that, you either get that from local property tax base or from state aid, essentially two big things. And that's in Pete's 3-sheeter. But wanted to let the board know that that was in the mix. We are on it, and that's a really important number for us to monitor. And we will certainly provide the board updates as we start to get numbers there. Lastly, and there are a few things that popped up here that are related to the memo that Pete put together. Wanted to make sure the board was aware, one, third Friday count not yet resolved, and we will have that to you when we get to October 15th. And then there are a few other things that kind of come in at the last second in mid-October, and that's the reason we have to have that special meeting on October 25th. So the DPI will get property valuation to us right around the 1st of October. And that's essentially the number they will use for the value of the property in the Verona area school district. And they have to set that number in every school district statewide, and will be an important number for us to watch, and will have an impact on mill rate. The next one that will come up will be state equalization aid and revenue limit adjustments. And those are numbers that kind of come at the last second. And the reason that we had to kind of push that meeting to the 25th before we finalize a mill rate and a finalized budget in October, at the end of October. Additionally, we will have updates on usage of ESSER funds and student enrollment, and state aid will play a big factor in terms of how much we need to utilize ESSER funds with that Fund 10 line for operating the school district budget. And lastly, the board was comfortable with the preliminary budget on prepaying some debt, and that comes from Fund 39, which is outside of the revenue limit, but gives the board the ability, if student enrollment comes in different than we thought, if property values come in different than we thought, and we still want to have the conversation around the mill rate we're comfortable with, that Fund 39 prepayment gives the board some ability in terms of setting that final mill rate. We were fairly aggressive with the preliminary budget, which was great. And once we get all these numbers shaking out, enrollment, state aid, property values, we will have a conversation around where we want to end up with the mill rate. That all shakes loose here in October. So we will have a quick update on October 18th when we start to have those initial numbers, but we were uncomfortable with the fact that a couple of the things we actually get the Friday before. So we will have those numbers for you, but not in a formal board presentation that we could have an in-depth discussion. And then we will have the meeting on the 25th that we will finalize that tax levy and have a revised budget to all of you for approval. So that's the state of the union in terms of school finance. Certainly willing to answer any questions that folks have.
Any questions? All right. Well, thank you very much.
Thank you, Chad and Pete. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Excellent. Now we can move on to item 7 on our agenda, public comment. I have no comments submitted online, but I do have one in person, Jen Kostok, and I apologize if I mispronounce that. Please feel free to join us here on the stage. If you could, please refrain from mentioning any specific staff or students and keep your remarks to about 3 minutes. That would be very much appreciated. But thank you for being here.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Welcome.
I didn't expect to talk again. I was here like a month ago, I think, and I did the same exact thing. And I was looking at the agenda and all the attachments, and I found a link, and it was the leadership letter. And I started reading the leadership letter. And this is the nursing portion, I believe, that I'm looking at. It was like page 9. Actually, it starts at 8, page 8 to 10. And I probably should have known this already, but I didn't, that somebody that's unvaxxed would be quarantined if they've been a close contact. That I did not expect at all. And one thing about this document, it doesn't say anything about how long they're quarantined for, which also I'm really curious because it's very open-ended. I mean, they're very specific with students that are vaccinated, only they don't need to quarantine and they just need to test 3 to 5 days later. But there's no specificity when it comes to the quarantine of students that are unvaxxed. So to me, there's so much ambiguity there. But, what else? And then, well, when I read this over, like, I just want to read this one paragraph that they have. It says, lastly, if you are not vaccinated, please consider getting vaccinated. Research has shown that being vaccinated prevents serious illness, hospitalization, and death. If you are vaccinated, you are exempt from being quarantined. If you have been around someone with COVID, unless you become symptomatic. What they can't say in there, in this statement, which it says it prevents serious illness, hospitalization, or death. But what it cannot say is it prevents spread. We know the vaccine does not necessarily prevent spread. Even the CDC has vaccine breakthrough infections are expected. They're gonna happen. We know it. People who get vaccine breakthrough infections can be contagious. I guess we are treating vaccinated kids better than unvaccinated kids. And I'd like to just equal things out and have them all treated the same. And which, yeah, the unvaccinated just have to test 3 to 5 days later. What did we do before the vaccine? How were kids treated if they were around? I don't know. But all I can say is that the unvaccinated are getting punished, and we know for certain that there can be breakthrough. So I'd like to see it change or updated or look at some more research on it, because I think the unvaxxed are getting a raw deal. So.
Thank you for your
Thanks
comments.
for your time.
Thank you.
All right, the board can move on to its consent agenda. We have our meeting minutes from the September 13th, 2021 meeting. Any individual discussion on the consent agenda? Second call for any discussion. Last call. Hearing none, I'll make a motion to adopt the board consent agenda. If there isn't an objection, this motion will be adopted. Are there any objections? Second call for any objections. Last call. Hearing none, this motion has been adopted and we have approved the board consent agenda. And we'll move on to future agenda items and meeting dates. Any questions or comments from the board on this?
No, just one comment. Since we have an appointment that we are going to have to be making to the board, there'll be information that's out hopefully by the end of this week about the process and the timeline for that appointment process. And that will be something that we will have on our future agenda items. We're hoping to have an appointment made by the end of October, but specific dates, times, process will be forthcoming. So
yeah,
are necessary.
Thank you very much. And I apologize that you have to go through this one more time for the board members who have done this again and again. But I'm sure that you'll have fantastic candidates. So. Any other questions, comments on future agenda items and meeting dates?
I just wanted to make a quick comment. So Jen and I had hosted a listening session last week, and just wanted to put out to the community that we hope to host many more. And we're going to try and be creative. We've tapped into some resources on Dr. Clarity's team to get best practices. So we're going to pick Mrs. Stanley's brain as well in her role of community engagement. But, you know, maybe different venues, different locations, and we really just appreciate any opportunity to hear from parents. So thank you for those who attended, and we look forward to many, many more opportunities.
Thank you to the
both for
Boys and
doing
Girls
that.
Club and their staff too, for just
Yes.
being so incredibly welcoming and
Always.
helpful. It's
Thanks,
nice to be
Jen.
out in the community. You know, no
Yes.
offense to this space, it's amazing. But it's nice to just be somewhere and just have a very informal way to just have
Yeah.
conversation. So looking forward to more of those.
Thank you both for taking the lead on that and, know that the board would be happy to partner with, we would all like to be involved in
Yep.
doing that in a more regular basis. And I'm glad that you kicked things off so well. Thank you for representing the board in that way.
Board activity,
Yeah,
rotating
absolutely.
turns.
Any other questions or comments on future agenda items and meeting dates? All right, hearing none, we can enter into recess for an informal adjournment. Meredith, would you like to lead the board debrief?
Yes, we'll do. So take a few minutes.
All right, we'll meet back here. Well, if you do need to get up and move around, 2 minutes, otherwise we'll start in 2 minutes. Okay, great. Thank you all.
So 2 minutes?
2 to 3.
Okay.
We'll wait till you're back.
No, I couldn't hear you say 2 or 10. I was like
Oh,
two,
no,
two.
2 minutes.
All right,
Yes,
got
2
it.
minutes. Thank you.
It will be part of the debriefing if people are not back
Yeah.
in 2 minutes.
It's I remember those 3-minute passing periods. where, 2 minutes is
Congratulations, Noah.
Thank you.
So when are you leaving? When do you have to leave for DC?
September 30th.
Okay,
So it's coming up quick, 10 days. Yeah.
that'll be exciting.
Oh, it's perfect. I'm gonna write that down.
Do you have another email I can send you?
Yes, I will send that to the board actually.
'Cause I'll send you a bunch of, if you here.
Yeah.
Suggestions.
Absolutely.
I live there for-
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I'll just send my email.
It's a total- it was the most average. Yeah, it was really built into the backside of the lot building. It's like all the dumpster areas.
Like the loading house.
Yeah, it was like a log cabin sticking out of the back. Full of toxic chemicals. It was like a slice of onions and that's built in the middle of.
So whenever no one's inspected, you put straight for the Wisconsin, the Wisconsin's practice.
Are you gonna be like driving out? Or are you gonna?
Yeah. Yeah. You haul me way out there.
That's what I wondered. Are you gonna just get new stuff? Or are you gonna-
Some of it I'm bringing, some of it, well, actually, I got a couch. I've like made those purchases and now I just sit them in the garage until I can move them. But it will be everything that I will need, I will have purchased before I get them. Yep, yep, 3-minute walk from Navy Yard Station. Yeah. That was definitely one of the key
Yeah.
key factors.
Yeah.
Totaled our car on the way back there
Oh,
in the middle of the summer. We just invited one.
Oh, yeah.
I
We
love
could just get on a bunch of those
Yeah.
grocery store, like literally, you never had to come up with that.
Oh my gosh. that's-
Yeah,
I
I'll
love
have no
about
need
DC,
for
it's shopping.
except when I want to go to a national park. In which I
That's gonna
will,
need it, yeah.
I'll find someone who has a.
Look, just so you know, when it rains, people are doing 30.
Yeah, well, for the last 2 times when I was in DC, 2 times ago, there was 2 inches of snow and it shut down the entire government.
Yeah.
So we couldn't even go to the Smithsonian because
Yes.
everything was shut down.
We got
Yeah.
one.
So,
Yeah.
yep,
Yeah.
yep.
Just really quick, when, after we adjourn, try to get over to the National Honor Society ceremony.
Okay.
We started at 7 locations.
What time do they start?
We started at 7.
Oh, well, then we'll get going. Yep. 5 minutes.
I sent them a video message to Aaron.
Yeah, yep.
Yeah, we'll get that done quick. And more time. All right.
Thank you.
We're gonna try and wrap up this debriefing in 5 minutes because I think folks have other meetings to attend to and there's also a Packer game. So Meredith, if you want to take it away for us?
Yeah, just a quick reminder that this is part of like the board's work and also engaging in continuous improvement. And so these debrief sessions are meant to simply evaluate the board's performance by the board, and they are not to be discussing furthering, substantial discussions about topics. So we've had a couple techniques that have been presented to us. And last time, I think we tried one of them. I think we tried, like Yana led the group kind of through an evaluation of our performance. We're going to try a different technique tonight to see which one kind of suits our style better, and we may alternate. But this technique is appropriately the quick whip technique because TikTok, the game's kicking off soon. So what I'd like to do though is just go through with each board member and have them tell us what they think went well tonight, talking about, process and what we could do to possibly improve future performance. Tonight, I do think what went well is that everybody participated, had time to participate without, belaboring points, but we also are getting the hang of using the new agenda. And I think that's just going to take some time, and that's just a matter of, as we become more familiar with the agenda, it'll become more easier for us to facilitate our meetings as we go through. So using that, what went well? What do you recommend that we improve? Either end willing to start, otherwise I'm going to. No,
I can start. I think the obvious pro of this meeting was it was very efficient. One thing that I think to keep in mind, and I think that this is just something that will naturally build over time, is more discussion around the board action. I think that we talked a lot about this last time, so I think this is probably just a unique scenario, but it's very easy to feel that what we accomplished tonight in improving these policies wasn't as big of a deal as it was. And that's nobody's fault in particular. It might just be process because we have to do 2 readings, but it was a significant lift, and I'm not sure that we can underscore that enough. So
thanks, Noah. Jen?
I think what's going well, I do like the new structure of our agenda. I appreciate that the policies are listed there and just the transparency that we have with the community around what those policies are. Something that I'm thinking about of just, I don't know if it's improving, but just being curious about is how, as a board member, personally and collectively, we continue to engage in the right discussion and dialogue to push in on those policies, especially pieces that you'll be sharing, Dr. Clarity, operationally, how do we question and have conversation and dialogue, still validating what is your lane versus what is ours. So I'm just kind of sitting with that in terms of just how this plays out.
Thanks, Jen. Yana?
Yeah, I mean, I do enjoy the new structure of our meeting. I think that I understand what we're coming in here to do, what we're coming in here to talk about. I think that has been missing for me in the past, kind of coming in on the board in the middle of a crazy time. And I think we've just done a better job of being prepared before the board meeting and being able to see things before Monday at 5:45. It just feels good. It feels like I'm prepared. I know what we're talking about. If I have questions, I'm able to look at what my questions are. It's not like I'm reading it really fast and then I'm like, oh, wait, I have a question, but we're 10 minutes down the road into something else. And so I think that's gone very well for me. Dr. Clarity, I thank you for calling me in today and letting me know and letting the community know that in my communications with your staff or any of the asks that I have, they do come through you. They are accepted through you. I am more of a body from the community that is, hey, here's what we may need to see to help us understand what's really going on. And so thanks for pointing that out as we have shifted to ensuring that the things that we're asking as board members do go through you, and we're not kind of picking off people that we're talking to and communicating with, and that streamlines a lot of that. I don't really have anything that we could do better right now because I think we're doing pretty good. So I don't have anything that we could do better. Sorry.
Well, that's a good, we'll leave that right there. Nicole, what do you have to share?
I think in general, I'm with everybody else. I really like the format and putting results first. I think it serves us and grounds us in our discussion, and it's kind of like working out in the morning where it just like sets the tone to your day. So I really enjoyed that. I think one of the things we can do better just until we get used to it is when we get to the OEs or things like that, just reiterating, this will be read out or approved next week or something to that nature. But I also think we're doing a really good job of like, hey, as a reminder, this section is for this. Or Dr. Clardy, I really liked your slide outlining all of the BSR. I think that was also really helpful.
Thank you. John?
So I'm going to echo some of the comments. I really liked kind of the direct, transparent communication around operational expectations. I like that we got right into some of these policies and looked at them and how they're going to work. I feel that, I would encourage everybody to go online and look at it, in particular the draft kind of work plan that we have so that you can see how we intend to go through the entire organization every year and hold everything accountable. I think that really adds something to what we're doing. And I want to echo something that Yana said earlier about the financial report. I do know a little bit about school financing, and the amount of times that I have to explain that it's much more complicated than just property taxes in, students out to people. To have a document like we got provided with today that explains kind of revenue streams and how that all works and how it doesn't come in regularly. And so our cash flow is uneven throughout the year by the nature of state governance. I think that's such a useful document to be able to refer people to, even if it is a 102 level document. I think that it's so succinct and helpful. So I really appreciate having those resources, because often I think we need to do better at communicating the why behind what we're doing. And so that to have that plainly in view was really, really good tonight. And I agree with Noah that I think taking a second to kind of talk around board action a little bit more so that we can get some of those whys out while we're doing it will be a benefit.
Thanks, John. That's a good reminder. So we'll make sure that we are having anything that's substantive happening more thoroughly at the time of the agenda item. And this is just a great wrap up of our performance. Christina, do you have anything to?
I would echo what all of my board colleagues have said. I like the new format. It's good that our meetings are efficient. We should talk more around the matters reserved for board action. Like I'm going to try to, when I think about preparation for a meeting, really hone in on that section of the agenda so that there's something that, I can add, it'll be ready to go. I just wanted to give kudos with the financial information, because I feel like even though our meetings have gotten more efficient, I have better information than I've had in the past, which is a lot, right? Because it's hard to be succinct, but also really get to the substance. And for example, trial balance, I've never heard that in the years I've been on the board. And I was thinking, okay, this was succinct, but I also learned some new things. And I think that's right on for finance. So finance is hard to understand for board members and the public alike. I mean, I think it's complicated. School finance in Wisconsin is quite complicated. So I appreciate a really succinct but substantive look at the financials. So. Okay,
Dr. Clardy, is there anything that you'd like to add? And you don't have to if you don't want to.
No, just again, a gratitude to the board for the approval of these policies. I think I just want to lift up my team, if I could, really quick. These governance policies also transitioned our way of working in central office, because we have to work in concert with each other. So I'm going to give it out to the central office leadership team and our principals as we are transitioning that agenda and that way of working to specifically be aligned with policy. So our work is to 4 weeks to 6 weeks in advance, prep, understand, know our data. So when we come before you, it is very clear, transparent, and succinct. I think selfishly, and don't think I want to be so transparent that I make your job boring is really what we're trying to do. But I know that your level of accountability and the work that you've done in governing these policies is the hard work. So I know you're not, but really, I don't want you to feel like you're not participating enough, because it's this discussion at this point, and there's been a lot of work both from you and behind the scenes that have gone into allowing for these reports to come to fruition, and it is playing out in our central office. But let's always keep our focus, because I'm shame on me for not saying enough. Again, none of this matters if we don't protect the magic in the classroom.
Yeah.
And that ultimately is where this has to live, is in our classroom. And so I just, again, appreciation for setting up the structure and the space to do the work.
Thank you for that reminder. Really, everything that happens in the classroom, that's where the magic is. And we are here to set the structure and you're here to implement, execute that. And we have to just keep reminding ourselves that. And as we go through these new processes, I think, again, the information that will be available to the public is going to exceed what has been the amount of transparency before in a way that is going to be highly beneficial. So thank you for the debrief. I'm going to pass it back over. Oh, go ahead.
Just very quick, not part of the debrief, but I also want to formally present a certificate of appreciation to President Noah Roberts. I can get to call him president for a couple more minutes here, or for a couple more seconds. Also, in honor of your service here, we are making donations to our library in the form of books on your behalf, and they're leadership books that we know you would appreciate. Seven halves of highly effective teens. The one thing you need to know, starting with the why, which we are digging deep into, help, I'm a student leader, managing up, and each book that we have donated will be a book plate with the acknowledgement to you.
Oh, wow. That is just extremely thoughtful and very much appreciated. And I won't keep us here any longer. In my last active chair, I will motion to adjourn. Do I have a second?
Second.
All right, second from Meredith. All those in favor signify by aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? And we are adjourned. Thank you all very much.